Your Excellency, Dr. William Samoei Ruto, the President of the Republic of Kenya and Commander-in-Chief of the Defense Forces, Your Excellency, the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya, Dr. Kithure Kindiki, the Attorney General of the Republic of Kenya, Honorable Dorcas Odur, the Chief Justice and Chair of the Judicial Service Commission, Honorable Justice Koome, the Speakers of both Houses, the National Assembly and the Senate, Principal Secretaries, Chief Secretaries, and all protocols observed. Allow me to ride on the protocols as been set by Honorable Nanok. Your Excellency, today marks a historic and significant milestone in Kenya's continuing journey towards justice, accountability, and most importantly, today opens up a national conversation on the long overdue question of violations of human rights, but also the issue of reparations, including the matter of compensation for persons who have suffered violations. So today, Your Excellency, we gather here not to merely present a report, but to reaffirm the state's duty, obligation, and commitment to recognizing people who have suffered violations as a result of exercising rights, and to move towards providing meaningful remedies for the harm they have suffered, and to reflect and agree on the kind of country that we want Kenya to be. Your Excellency, from the onset, the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights wishes to sincerely acknowledge Your Excellency for the decisive leadership and commitment demonstrated in initiating this very important and significant process of not just having a national reparations and compensation framework for victims of human rights violations, including victims of protests and demonstration, but the conversation around healing and reconciling the nation. Your Excellency, as a country, we cannot have a conversation about human rights, about reparations, about compensation, without honoring and recognizing the enduring and courageous role played by the late Right Honorable Raila Odinga, whose consistent advocacy for the respect of human rights and reparations for victims of violations has significantly contributed to sustaining this important national conversation. He was very passionate about addressing human rights violations as a critical step in confronting the historical, socio-economic, and political challenges that have continued to affect our beloved nation. So today's event, Your Excellency, is therefore the greatest tribute that we can have as a nation to honor the legacy of the late Right Honorable Raila Odinga, and implementing the recommendations herein is a posthumous honor to his legacy. Your Excellency, your bold and deliberate decision to require this reparations framework demonstrates a profound understanding that the state's obligations to victims must be fulfilled through structured, principled, and time-bound action grounded in law, policy, and institutional commitment. This truly reflects our national moral obligation and profound need for justice, accountability, reconciliation, and national healing. It recognizes that sustainable peace cannot be built upon unaddressed grievances, and that genuine unity requires acknowledgement of past wrongs, restoration of dignity to victims, and a collective commitment to ensuring that such violations never recur. Your Excellency, the Commission accepted and embraced this responsibility with utmost humility, seriousness, unwavering resolve, and above all, a deep sense of national duty and commitment to justice. Your Excellency, this unprecedented national undertaking marks the first time in Kenya's history that the government has on its own initiative embarked on such a process, one that seeks to formally acknowledge that human rights violations occurred, and this landmark initiative signifies a clear commitment to move the nation from documenting to redressing, from acknowledgement to reform, and from recognition to accountability. Your Excellency, successive governments have received numerous reports documenting grave human rights violations, including the historic Truth, Justice and Reconciliation Commission report. These reports recorded violations, identified victims, and set out clear and concrete recommendations, including the establishment of mechanisms for reparations. However, Your Excellency, most of these findings remain largely unimplemented, leaving victims to endure prolonged and burdensome pain, loss, and unaddressed injustice without remedy. The report that we will be presenting to you today, Your Excellency, captures stories from victims and reminds us that behind every statistic that we will be presenting today is a human being, is a family, is a community whose suffering sometimes remains unseen and unacknowledged. And by giving a voice to these experiences, the report contributes to a national process of healing founded on truth, recognition, and remembrance. Your Excellency, the promulgation of the 2010 Constitution presented a transformative commitment to human rights, democracy, and the rule of law. Through the Bill of Rights, Kenyans are guaranteed freedoms of expression, association, assembly, and access to justice. However, despite these constitutional guarantees, violations sometimes continue to occur, particularly in the context of demonstrations, public protests, elections, and civic engagement. And this reality has underscored the need for a structure, effective reforms to bridge the gap between constitutional promises and lived experiences. Your Excellency, while the Constitution guarantees us rights, we must, as a matter of urgency, begin to have a national conversation on responsibilities as part of human rights. The conversation around responsibilities sometimes misses when we have conversations in the country. Responsibilities of the citizens as they exercise their rights and the responsibilities of the duty bearers as they carry out their duties. Responsibilities to ensure that our rights do not infringe on others and that exercise of rights does not lead to deaths, does not lead to injuries, does not lead to destruction of livelihoods, destruction of property, including public property, and which public property is expected to offer services to us as citizens. Your Excellency, we must now more than ever have a conversation on the cost of violent protests in Kenya. There is a significant cost on human lives, including deaths and injuries, and contribution to instability of the country. But violent protests also have significant short-term and long-term economic consequences for Kenya, affecting public finances, private sector growth, investment, employment, and overall economic stability. The impacts extend beyond the immediate destruction of property and often undermine development gains accumulated over the years. Your Excellency, violent protests lead to reduced economic growth. They disrupt business operations, transportation networks, and commercial activities. Businesses are forced to close temporarily, leading to reduced production, lower sales, declining tax revenues, and when protests occur repeatedly, economic growth slows as both domestic and foreign investors adopt a wait-and-see approach. For Kenya, where services including trade, tourism, and agriculture are major contributors to GDP, prolonged disruption can significantly reduce quarterly and annual economic growth. Your Excellency, violent protests leads to decline on foreign direct investment because investors consistently seek predictability, political stability, and security. And violent protests create perceptions of instability and increase investment risks. For a country such as Kenya, seeking to attract manufacturing technology and infrastructure investment, recurrent unrest significantly undermines competitiveness. Allow me, Your Excellency, to just give you an example of how we have incurred costs, especially in the 2025 protests. And going by the data from the Ministry of Interior, the protests that took place between June and July of 2025 has costed the country a whopping loss of about Kenya shillings 3 billion. And this is just 1 month's loss. Your Excellency, 3 billion can go a long way in meeting a lot of our national obligations. And as a country, we cannot afford to sustain consistent losses as a result of violent public protests. And as Kenyans, we must understand that these losses mean digging deeper into our pockets to recover these losses, and as such, it must be our shared responsibility to ensure that we exercise our rights responsibly. Your Excellency, allow me now to focus on the assignment that the Commission was given to undertake, and to note that in the development of this framework and the accompanying guidelines, the Commission was guided by international standards on reparations, particularly the basic principles and guidelines on the right to a remedy and reparation for victims of gross human rights violation under international human rights law, as adopted by the UN General Assembly in December of 2005. In this process, we as a country have demonstrated our ability to ensure adoption of the highest standards in implementing our human rights obligations, especially as a respected member of the United Nations. The Commission took into account and carefully drew lessons from prior national processes, particularly draft legislations, policies, and reparations processes that have already been proposed. And this includes the draft Kenya Reparations Bill of 2019, as well as policy and regulatory proposals presented to the Attorney General in 2029 by civil society organizations under the leadership of the Kenya Transitional Justice Network. Your Excellency, despite significant time constraint, this process was undertaken through extensive consultations, public participation, and technical engagements with various stakeholders, including victims, civil society organizations, constitutional commissions, independent officers, state agencies, and members of the public, all of whom enriched this process with invaluable perspectives and expertise. In compliance with Article 10 of the Constitution of Kenya, the Commission subjected the draft guidelines to a robust public participation process and received a total of 281 submissions from members of the public in the form of memoranda, letters, proposals, and these have contributed significantly to the final framework that we submit today. So, Your Excellency, the framework presented today therefore proposes a raft of reparations, including compensation, rehabilitation, restitution, satisfaction, and guarantees of non-repetition. And these are standard reparative justice measures used in transitional justice and human rights contexts to address human rights suffered by victims of violations. The framework, therefore, seeks to establish a victim-centered, transparent, and accountable system capable of delivering accessible and effective remedies in accordance with the Constitution and international human rights standards. Further, Your Excellency, the report the Commission is submitting today includes a list of victims who reported violations, including those arising in the context of demonstration and protests, in line with Your Excellency's proclamation. The report therefore captures cases documented by the Commission, cases from the Independent Policing Oversight Authority, and other cases received through various government institutions, including the Ministry of Interior, documented within the 60-day period. However, allow me to note, Your Excellency, that more cases have been documented subsequent to the finalization of this report involving individuals who equally qualify for inclusion in this list. The Commission therefore humbly requests that Your Excellency considers reparations for these cases in subsequent process, of course taking into account issues around budgeting processes. Your Excellency, the report that we shall shortly present to you documents and identifies cases of violations that were widespread or systemic in nature. Accordingly, the Commission documented violations arising in 2017 and 2022, which were largely linked to disputes and protests around the general elections, But we also documented protests from 2023 and 2024 protests, particularly during the Finance Bill and Gen Z protests. And we also documented victims from the 2025 Sabasaba demonstrations. And the Commission did this acknowledging that not all cases reported to the Commission qualify as gross human rights violations for reparations, as some were isolated criminal acts, including those committed by individual police officers and other citizens, which, Your Excellency, we believe should ideally go through the criminal justice processes. Your Excellency, in identifying victims, the Commission also acknowledged that Thank you. In identifying victims, the Commission also acknowledged that a number of human rights cases documented before this period had already been captured and included in the TJRC report. Your Excellency, the Commission therefore makes a general recommendation for the full implementation of that particular report. The Commission documented 1,815 claims and received another 1,022 from the Independent Policing Oversight Authority and others from the Ministry of Interior. And through this process, Your Excellency, the Commission has so far verified and obtained consent from a total of 1,101 victims across 6 categories of violations, which include deaths, that's the right to life, which has about 245 victims. We've documented issues around persons who were injured, about 135 victims. The majority of the victims were those who were arrested, who make up a total of 473 victims. But we've also documented cases of sexual violence, about 75 victims, and cases around the right to property, which is 138 victims. Your Excellency, while the report acknowledges and makes recommendations on various reparation components, the Commission wants to categorically state that compensation is just one of those components of reparations. And this is in acknowledgement that as a country, we sometimes have resource constraint, and the report highly recommends that priority be given to collective reparations, especially for regions and areas that have historically suffered from the effects of protests. A lot of these communities have also suffered economic marginalization, and communal reparations and social protection initiatives will go a long way in healing and reconciliation within these communities. The Commission also notes that collective reparations offers an important opportunity for healing fractured communities, rebuilding social cohesion, and restoring confidence in public institutions. Investments in community infrastructure, psychosocial support services, memorial sites, and community development initiatives can serve not only as remedies for past harms, but also as symbols of the national commitment to reconciliation and inclusive development. Your Excellency, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, the Commission has made several recommendations in this report, including enactment of a reparations law, and this will require commitment from all arms of government as well as from the citizenry, and not just for its enactment, but also for its implementation. The Commission has also made a specific recommendation on the operationalizing Article 37 of the Constitution to provide a legislative framework for demonstrations, picketing, and assemblies. And allow me, Your Excellency, to say and to report that we've already put up a team to draft proposals on this particular article. And we believe that it will ensure that this right is exercised responsibly. And Your Excellency, we hope to make very radical proposals in the proposed framework, including using technology to support the exercising of this right. And Your Excellency, we acknowledge that you're big on technology, and we believe that this is the right time to leverage on technology to help citizens who want to demonstrate peacefully to do so, and to also assist law enforcers to identify criminals who disrupt such demonstrations, but also police who sometimes use unnecessary force during assemblies. Thank you. Your Excellency, because of the magnitude of this process and the recommendations made, the Commission notes that implementation of compensations and reparations must involve all stakeholders. Your Excellency, I have the floor today to speak to you, so allow me to take this opportunity to briefly address the challenges faced by the Commission, which has historically received limited budgetary allocation to undertake its constitutional mandate. Your Excellency, yet the Commission plays a very critical role in ensuring that our country complies with its national, regional, and international human rights obligations. Globally, both multilateral and bilateral partners increasingly require that technical support, arrangements, and agreements, including those relating to trade, health, defense, be implemented through a human rights-based approach. This means that the Commission must support government agencies in integrating human rights standards into these processes. Your Excellency, our humble appeal as a constitutional commission is for the government to allocate adequate and sustainable funding to enable the commission to continue to effectively discharge its mandate and fulfill its constitutional obligations. The commission has continued to put Kenya on the global map by maintaining its A status as a national human rights institution, and your support, Your Excellency, will elevate the profile of Kenya as a country that is committed to strengthening and creating strong institutions as a cornerstone for democracy. The Commission remains committed to supporting the implementation of these recommendations and to continuously monitor the enforcement of the recommendations herein and to keep Your Excellency updated on progress of the implementation. Your Excellency, allow me to once again, on behalf of the Commission, staff of the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights, and most importantly, on behalf of the victims for whose voices informed this process, to sincerely thank you for this historic initiative that will shape the future of our nation. Kenya has taken an important step towards healing historical wounds, strengthening national unity, and building a society founded on justice, human dignity, accountability, and respect for human rights. The true measure of this process will not be only in the submission of this report, but in the subsequent processes towards ensuring lives are restored, trust is rebuilt, and hope renewed among Kenyans. And our prayer today, Your Excellency, is that this initiative will stand as a lasting testament that Kenya values every life, every voice, every citizen, and that collectively we can journey towards a more just, united, and reconciled nation. And at this stage, Your Excellency, it is my pleasure as a chairperson of the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights to formally present this report, the reparations guidelines, the list of victims, and the proposed legislation on reparations today for your consideration and action as the beginning of a new chapter in which Kenya moves towards a structured, credible, sustainable process of addressing human rights violations, rebuilding public trust in institutions, promoting reconciliation amongst communities, and laying the foundation for lasting national healing. Thank you very much for this opportunity to serve the nation, and we pray that God continues to bless all of us and to bless our country, Kenya. Thank you very much.
We will now invite His Excellency to receive the report. The first frame will be His Excellency to receive the report from the Chair. I'll request that the rest of us remain seated. We have cameras at the back, so we'd like to get every frame. So the first frame will be His Excellency receiving the report. Makofi tafadhali. Allow me, with your permission, Your Excellency, to also invite the following for the second frame: His Excellency, the Deputy President, the Honorable Chief Justice, Majority Leader, National Assembly, Minority Leader, National Assembly, the Honorable Attorney General, CS Interior, Chair JLAC, Chairperson COJ, and Chair of the Panel of Experts on Compensation, to also receive the report. Let's also have the two speakers, Speaker of the National Assembly and Speaker of the Senate. Thank you, Your Excellency.